Christine Pitawanich with your weekly recap. We'll be catching you up on some of the biggest stories of the week. That includes the latest developments around getting critical funding for Oregon's transportation department while jobs hang in the balance. Plus, the group of Oregonians making their way toward Gaza as they try to call attention to a growing humanitarian crisis. And the mayor of Portland's call to the community as the city seeks more support for its homeless shelters. But first, to our top story, the former Alaska Airlines pilot accused of trying to shut down a plane's engines in the middle of a flight over Portland pleaded guilty Friday. This is video of Joseph Emerson arriving to federal court with his attorneys Friday morning. 2 years ago, Emerson was riding off duty in the cockpit of a Horizon Air flight when he tried to shut down the plane's engines. Crew members had to restrain him, and the plane made an emergency landing in Portland. Emerson said he took psychedelic mushrooms a couple of days earlier and that he hadn't slept in over 40 hours. Meantime, investigators in Cowlitz County used DNA analysis to identify human remains discovered 4 years ago as those of Portland man who disappeared 3 decades ago. Anthony Matthew Croy went missing from the Portland area in 1995. In 2021, tree planters found his skull with 2 bullet holes in it near Cougar, Washington. The investigation into his death continues. ODOT workers expressed their disappointment this week after Oregon senators decided to wait 2 more weeks to vote on the state's highly debated transportation funding bill. That bill was the sole reason lawmakers were back to Salem this week for a special session. Initially, the Senate was on track to vote on the bill Wednesday after it passed in the Oregon House of Representatives on Monday. But Senate Democrats may not have enough votes right now to pass the bill. That's because Senator Chris Gorsuch is recovering from back surgery. The Senate president wants to wait until Gorsuch can return to Salem and be a part of that vote. Meanwhile, nearly 500 ODOT workers could lose their jobs if the transportation bill does not pass.
Continues to feel like people are not stepping up and taking the reality of these layoffs, the reality of the impacts to our roads seriously.
I'm just disappointed, still disappointed in quite a few people, out of Salem and the legislature.
Layoffs were supposed to begin in mid-September, but Governor Tina Kotek delayed the start of those layoffs until mid-October, giving lawmakers more time to pass the bill. A group of 20 people, including 3 Portland city councilors, left for Vienna, Austria this week for a taxpayer-funded trip to see how their public housing model works. One of the city councilors defended the trip, saying it is not a vacation. Portland City Councilor Candace Avalos said social housing, which is prevalent in Vienna, may be the solution to housing affordability in Portland. But some people believe the trip is not a good use of city dollars.
I disagree. At the end of the day, we have budgets and we have discretion over them, and I use my budget as a way to enhance my work. I see this as doing exactly that. I always joke about this, and I've actually talked to a lot of leaders about this, that sometimes we just get really stuck in our ways because we don't open our minds to other opportunities.
When the councilors return, they're going to a local housing conference where they will talk about what they learned in Vienna and create a report based on their findings. Avalos said she did not know off the top of her head how much taxpayer money is going toward the trip. A Portland man is on his way to Gaza as part of a flotilla that's trying to break through Israel's blockade to raise awareness and deliver aid. Catherine Cook spoke to his mother.
I am incredibly proud of Paul.
From a park bench in Portland, Jan Levin is sending love 6,000 miles away to her son, Paul Reed.
Carry aid into people living in Gaza, and I think it's just ridiculous that we have to do this.
On Friday, Reed flew to Barcelona, then boarded a sailboat. He's joining a flotilla, an estimated 70 boats, all carrying food, medicine, and supplies headed for the Gaza Strip. Levin supports the mission and her son.
It's about opening a corridor for humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza who are being starved by Israel, starved and bombed and killed.
The so-called Global Samud Flotilla could reach Gaza in about 2 weeks.
They had a rough couple days. The seas were very rough.
It's a very terrifying experience to witness nature when it is fierce, and it was fierce last night.
This flotilla marks the fourth and biggest Marine attempt this year to break the long Israeli blockade of the Palestinian territory. Climate activist Greta Thunberg is part of it. In June, she tried to reach Gaza by ship with 11 others. The Israeli military intervened and deported everyone on board.
Our plan B, if Israel once again decides to violate international law and prevent humanitarian aid from getting into Gaza, our plan B is to come back even bigger. As simple as that.
Every single one of those people on that flotilla is willing to risk their lives.
Meanwhile, the Gaza Health Ministry reports that more than 300 Palestinians have died of malnutrition, about a third of them children. Levin, who lives in Ohio, made a special trip to Portland so she could see her son before he left.
I couldn't let him leave without saying goodbye, because I don't know when I'm going to see him again, or if I'll see him again.
Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Now to an update this week from one of the nation's major air carriers. Starting next month, Spirit Airlines will no longer operate in Portland. The decision comes after the airline announced it was filing for bankruptcy for the second time. In a statement, the airline says this is part of their effort to focus on their strongest performing markets. The Portland Business Journal reported this week that Powell's Books is laying off some of its employees. A spokesperson for Powell's told the Journal that the bookstore has already laid off 18 workers in the past 3 months. The laid off employees were primarily in management and business services roles. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson is asking for volunteers and donations to help with the city's homeless shelters, and implying that if his plan is not successful, President Trump could send in the National Guard. In a letter to people on a mailing list, the mayor pointed to needs at a new day center in Old Town and overnight shelter in the Pearl District. Here's what Linda Witt, who lives in the Pearl, had to say about troops potentially responding to the Rose City.
I think that since we haven't managed to conquer our homeless issue here in Portland, that it's maybe not a bad deal to have somebody come in that can take care of it.
We reached out to the mayor's office to get more context and clarity about his call for volunteers. So far, we have not heard back. Portland city officials told KGW that 13 people slept at the new Pearl District shelter on its first night Tuesday. That included some who had been sleeping on the streets and had never stayed at an overnight shelter before. Capacity at the shelter is currently 40 people, but the city expects to meet that number in a couple weeks as word spreads.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good start, because it gives people a place to be and not be like in violation of trespassing or loitering.
The city said the shelter will eventually be prepared to host up to 200 overnight guests. Ridgefield's only hardware store is set to close its doors for good at the end of the month after more than 100 years in business. Our Devin Haskins spoke to the owners about why they're saying goodbye.
At the corner of Pioneer Street and Main Avenue, this building has stood here since 1914. Inside, it's what a small-town hardware store should be.
This is totally a throwback you get from the old days of hardware stores.
Scott Hughes and his wife bought the place in 1999.
You don't have to go into Home Depot and buy 25 screws when you need 3 or 4.
Some things have remained the same, like this original countertop and the scale that once weighed nails and screws.
It was made in 1914. I know it was purchased new for the store at that time.
It has been the only hardware store in town.
Makes it convenient because Home Depot is so far away, so it's easier to come here.
But after 111 years, Scott says it's time to say goodbye.
It's very heartbreaking that they're closing.
It's a business he has loved since he bought it.
You love your job, you never work a day in your life. That's the way this was. You never regretted a Monday having to come into work.
For Scott, this decision to close has been something he's been thinking about for the last 2 years. He says it is time to spend more time with his wife, Kathy.
Oh, she is my dream girl. Excuse me.
For more than 50 years, Scott and Kathy have always been side by side. She started working here when her dad owned the store from 1982 till 1999 when she and Scott took over.
She just loves this community. Born, raised here. She knows everybody.
Over the last decade, Kathy has been battling a disease that over time has required more attention. Now Scott says his place is by her side.
The last 2 years it's been progressing, and this year it's been progressing a little bit more, so that's why I need to spend time with her.
Ridgefield Hardware will close on September 30th.
Yeah.
But for Scott,
yep, and it'll be hard.
the memories inside these walls will never fade.
You always look back at your life and you see, do you have any regrets or anything? The last regret I would ever have is buying this store and marrying that woman.
In Ridgefield, Devin Haskins, KGW News.
So even though I live in Hawaii, every year when I come home, I got to come to Don and Joe's for butterscotch malt.
And for this next story, we are staying in Ridgefield. Don and Joe's Drive-In, a family-run burger joint that's been around for more than 40 years. We checked in with them this week after an In-N-Out opened a few miles away. Despite the new competition, the family that runs Don and Joe's says business is booming.
The more the merrier. So it brings traffic to the area, it brings local businesses. It's honestly great to see Ridgefield growing the way it is.
Don and Joe's Drive-In is not going anywhere. They say they plan to keep serving Ridgefield for generations to come. Now here's a look at your weather.
Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Chris McGinnis. We have been tracking showers and even some thunder showers rolling out of the Cascades and into parts of the Willamette Valley. Over the last 60 minutes, the lightning detection has kind of dropped off, but the showers still holding together to get part of the Rose City here in Portland a little wet up towards Vancouver. And as we go out a little wider, you can see the trend over the last 3 hours. We've had showers and thunder showers in the gorge from the Dalles west towards Hood River. That little area now working its way on up into Skamania County. Another area of showers, actually a fairly frequent area of showers, has been down along the Central Oregon coast and in the Coast Range, Lincoln County. So Lincoln City, Newport, you folks have been getting on and off wet with some lightning detected there frequently over the last 3 hours. And now a second round of some showers popping in Marion County, this in just the last 60 minutes. So it's been a bit of an active morning here across southwest Washington and northwest Oregon. And while these continue lifting on off to the north and west, eventually the wet weather threat, we'll have that this morning. I think that will taper off as we head into this afternoon. So the first part of our day today, the shower threat, then hazy and a little sticky. By Portland standards, we don't typically see dew points in the 60s. So when we do, it's a little muggy and temperatures will be in the mid 80s. So it's going to feel a little sticky this afternoon with, again, highs getting into the mid 80s here in Portland. We do have a slight cooling trend coming our way the next couple of days. We'll feel that day by day heading into the weekend. I keep a slight shower threat as well, and I'll explain a little bit more about why it's slight. It's very, very minimal, but enough to mention. And as we go into the early part of next week, I think a lot of us have a chance to get wet as the cool down continues. All right, here's the big perspective across the Northwest. This is kind of a chaotic looking satellite picture, and what I mean by that is if you look closely, you'll see some little swirls here, lots of them, lots of little weather disturbances. There's one there that's driving the showers and occasional thunder showers this morning. There's another one down there, another one down there, a bigger one here off the, out in the Gulf of Alaska. And what all of that means is that all of these little pieces are rotating into the Pacific Northwest every 6 to 12 hours, and that has been driving these recurring showers and in some cases thunder showers. Of course, with that lightning and lightning strikes, that brings the potential for new fire starts. So that is concerning a bit for portions of central and eastern Oregon today, where they're already dealing with prolific wildfire smoke in the air. All right, futurecast into tomorrow morning, we begin to get a little bit more onshore influence. So what that will do is drop our temperatures a bit and stabilize the air a little bit in the Willamette Valley. So while there is at least the chance we get a few drops of rain, the better chance will be along the Cascades and points east during the day on Saturday and maybe even again on Sunday. Valley forecast, again, watch out for the early showers today and then a hazy and warm day, kind of muggy with highs in the mid 80s for Salem. Up towards southwest Washington, again, we mentioned about 86 here in Portland. I think Vancouver gets to about 86 as well with that early morning showers threat. At the beach, showers and a rumble of thunder. We've already had those in Lincoln County, so Newport and Lincoln City, you've had some showers. I think you will trend towards a partly sunny sky this afternoon. And then out in the gorge, East Gorge hot today, with the early morning showers giving way to a partly sunny sky. And we talked about the smoke. This is a look at our smoke modeling, picking up the smoke from the Emigrant Fire, which is burning in eastern Lane County, the Lane County Cascades. Over the next 12 hours or so, that smoke will continue to be fairly thick across portions of the Cascades and Central Oregon. In fact, we're showing up with some unhealthy air out towards the Prineville area. So smoke and also the possibility of some thunderstorms in your forecast with a high of 91 eastern part of the state. Again, afternoon thunderstorms possible, otherwise hazy and warm with highs in the upper 80s to low 90s. 86 today here in Portland. We dip it down a little bit into the upper 70s on Saturday and Sunday, and rain or showers a sure thing next week.
And that's a wrap on your weekly recap. Again, I'm Christine Pitawanich. A quick reminder, you can catch up on the latest headlines anytime on KGW.com, your KGW app, or our YouTube channel.